Welcome to the first mini lesson of 2013. Oh wait, this is on YouTube, so it could be 2014 or 2099, or maybe you went back in time to 2000. Oh, this is confusing. Let's just get started. This mini lesson is on Teddy Roosevelt, aka real name Theodore Roosevelt, also known as TR. I think you can figure out why. Teddy Roosevelt. He's also known as the Rough Rider, which we learned about in the Spanish-American War, the Teddy Bear President, and that beep cowboy. He's not only a man of many nicknames, he's a man of many faces. When Teddy Roosevelt was born, he was born with severe asthma, difficulty breathing, and despite that he became quite a fan of the outdoors, where asthma is sometimes worse, and he made his way into the world, and at Harvard, despite his asthma, was known as one of the captains of the boxing team. Not only did he have asthma, he was nearly blind without his glasses, and he had to fight without his glasses, yet he still did pretty well. Later in life, as a hunter, and of course one of the heroes of the Spanish-American War, Colonel Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt here with some globes, awesome, and the Teddy Bear President. Here he is as a politician speaking, and of course Teddy Roosevelt with the current faces that we know him today. In fact, you've seen a lot of this already in our Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure back in December. Here's a quick mini version to remind you of the awesomeness of Teddy Roosevelt. The secret word is vegetable. Yep, pretty much like a cross between Daniel Boone and Chuck Norris. But most everything you saw in that quick review of the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure presentation was about his work inside the United States. Teddy Roosevelt is also known for his work outside the United States, most specifically known for his work in the Spanish-American War when he was a colonel, leading his men in the charge at San Juan and Kettle Hill, not standing in the back saying charge, but ahead saying follow me. As president, he was the first president to receive the Nobel Peace Prize in 1904 for ending the war between the Russians and the Japanese and helping to get the peace resolution passed, which gets him the Nobel Peace Prize. He's also famous for his type of diplomacy, which is known as big stick diplomacy, and you see lots of cartoons of Teddy here, looking like he would have in the Spanish-American War, carrying this big stick. Now we're going to explore the big stick diplomacy in a couple of ways, first in this video and then in a separate one with my dog Duncan. The origin of the phrase speak softly and carry a big stick and you will go far is from Africa. It's a proverb which Roosevelt has taken and added to. Here's a quote from Teddy that says, "There is a homely old adage, or speaking, which runs, speak softly and carry a big stick and you will go far. If the American nation will speak softly and yet build and keep at pitch the highest training, a thoroughly efficient Navy, the Monroe Doctrine will go far." Now this might be confusing at first, but again when we get to the video with Duncan, you'll understand it. And you'll understand it through these cartoons as well. If you remember back to the Monroe Doctrine, it said that the European countries should stay on their side of the Atlantic Ocean over here, and that the Latin American, South American, Central American countries should be left alone and not colonized further. What Teddy Roosevelt says is not only do you guys stay here, but we will take care of any problems over here. And this new diplomacy and this new strength, the big stick in this case, is not an actual large stick that Roosevelt walked around with, but instead is a stick to encourage, through the use of our Navy, these guys to stay out and for us to gain power over here. Here we see Teddy Roosevelt in the Caribbean Sea, which we've heard a little bit about with Puerto Rico and Cuba, kind of leading what should be going on over here on in the Caribbean and Mexico and some of the other places that you see. And again, the idea is we have a strong navy that's going to lead this new way of our dealing with foreign countries. And here we see yet another cartoon of Teddy looking very, well, Teddyish on a ship. Brief story on this one. In the Dominican Republic, they were free from Spain and from the other European countries, but they were in debt to them. And the European countries were threatening to come in and take over the industries because they wanted that money back. Now that would have been in violation of what? Can I get a what? The Monroe Doctrine. But the Roosevelt corollary is a little bit further. Not only do you stay on your side, but we will handle the problem. And in the Dominican Republic we did, where we went in and took charge a little bit of what was going on. The most famous use of the big stick diplomacy is probably in regards to the Panama Canal. Now in order to understand the Panama Canal, I'm going to shift over to Google Earth. Let's see if the magic will hold. Maybe. Wait for it. Did it hold? And to understand the Panama Canal, you've got to take a bigger look at where the Panama Canal is. So if you remember before from the Oregon Trail and the Transcontinental Railroad, for a while the only way to get across the United States was to go down around South America and back up, to go over the Oregon Trail or later the Transcontinental Railroad, or to take a ship here to Panama, get off, walk across, and take another ship here. Of course, the dream was to actually build the Panama Canal, and we weren't the first to come up with the idea. The French had actually tried it first, and here we're zooming in on Panama to see what it looks like. Whoa, that's a little bit too close. Well, there's the Panama Canal. Cool, we'll see some more of this in class on Friday. But as I zoom out to show you where the canal is, the Isthmus of Panama is not that far across. See if I can measure it for you. This way, here, about 42 miles across, not that far. And the French had come up with the idea, or others had come up with the idea, let's build a canal across. Canals were not a new thing, they were an old thing, but they weren't easy to do. The problem that the French ran into was that it was very, 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 very expensive, and they ran into the world's most dangerous creature. Do you know what it is? Say it out loud. Good, now mark it on your Google form because that's going to be one of your questions. And you can also see as I'm zooming out here, the country of Colombia. More on that in a second. Let's see if I can magically shift back. Wow, the magic held. Awesome. So we'll explore this in class in a little bit more depth, but let me give you a quick understanding. The French failed. They couldn't get the Panama Canal built. Same type of difficulties they might have had in building a transcontinental railroad. And when the French left, they left their work unfinished, and the United States under Teddy Roosevelt decided to swoop in. The only problem was that Panama was an independent country. Panama was controlled by Colombia, and Colombia didn't want the United States to build the canal through. So what we did was we offered lots of money at first to build the canal to Colombia. And the Colombians said, maybe, nah, you know what, no. So we came up with another trick instead. We told the people of Panama, have a revolution, and Uncle Sam will come in with the big stick and squash the Colombians. And conveniently enough, that's exactly what happened. The Panamanians had a revolution, and the United States showed up with some big warships and pointed the guns at Colombia, and basically said, if you mess with our ships, we will fight you. And that's basically what big stick diplomacy is. We'll be nice, we'll talk things out, but if you mess with us, we will fight you. So back to the Panama Canal. Here's Colombia, here's Panama, here's where the canal actually goes. Colombia had been controlling Panama for years. They were a colony, basically. The Panamanians did want their freedom, and with the United States' assistance, they got it. They had a revolution, we aimed guns at the Colombians gave up, and conveniently enough, all of a sudden we had an agreement to build the Panama Canal. Of course, it wasn't that easy to build. We're going to explore the who, what, when, where, and why in class, and I know it's off your screen just a little bit, but you get the point. But let's take a look at how it was when the French left. Not very good. In fact, they basically left a breeding ground for mosquitoes with all this standing water here. And I don't think too many ships are going to make it through this canal. But when the United States is done, it's going to look a lot more like this. It takes about 10 years. Now, Teddy Roosevelt actually went down there to build it. This is not actually how it was done, though. It is an interesting cartoon. You can kind of see it. It's cut off a little bit on the screen here. Teddy Roosevelt is making his way through the canal. Symbolically, the United States is going through it. By the way, Teddy Roosevelt did not get the permission of Congress to do this. He went beyond Congress. The Senate should have had to ratify this, but they didn't. He basically got it done, sent people down there, and he himself did go down there. He was not this ginormous, though. And if you can kind of see, he's throwing dirt over here on the city of Bogota. It's cut off again. Bogota's in Colombia, so he's kind of making fun of them. What he said to Congress was, you can debate all you want, but while you're debating, the Panama Canal will be being built. Now, some people looked at that as good. Other people said the United States was kind of like eating the world. Now, if you look at this image closely, you can see the eye of Washington. You can see the nose of Florida. You can see the big old mouth here eating up Cuba, and maybe now Central America, Colombia, and Panama Canal. Some were saying we would become quite the imperialist nation. Next is a look at the Great White Fleet. Now, Teddy's Great White Fleet becomes rather famous in 1907 to 1909, when, as president, he organized the building of these new white warships. I think there were 16 of them altogether, and they were basically sent around the world on a cruise. Not to go fight, but just to show how strong they were. It was a really good example of Teddy's big stick diplomacy, because it was just showing showing the rest of the world how powerful America had become with the new navy that we had, and the new places that we could stop, like Puerto Rico and Cuba and the Philippines and so on. And again, we'll explore the who, what, when, where, why in class a little bit. But very quickly, there were 16 of the ships, organized and paid for by the United States under the leadership of Teddy Roosevelt. They basically just sailed around the world, showing how powerful we were from 1907 to 1909. I'll show you a map in a little bit. The basic idea why, to show how strong we were. Here's the route of the Great White Fleet. Took 2 years to complete this. I think it actually left from Virginia and went down this way. I'm not positive on that, but it circumnavigated the globe. And that, and that is part 1 of our show here. There's going to be 2 parts left. The next thing you're going to do is watch the video on big stick diplomacy as Duncan as my example. And the third thing you're going to do is listen to a song about the building of the Panama Canal. That is all. Get ready to watch video 2. Don't forget to fill out your Google form.